This is E-Commerce Uncensored. Brought to you by Fast Forward Unlimited. We're coming to you fully loaded and exposed with all the strategies and techniques for growing your e-commerce business.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of E-Commerce Uncensored. This is episode number 64. My name 64. Right?
64.
Yes.
Well, we did. The reason why I don't know if it's 64 or not is because we recorded one the other day for an hour and a half. That did not record.
Right.
About 9 minutes in, the computer that we're recording on just totally went to
we actually were
screensaver
talking for about an hour.
Yeah, and we had a really nice conversation, which
sort of leads into what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm Kevin Manel. I'm here with Jason Caruso.
Yes.
And
Paul Chu.
Paulie Chu is going to be in here full time. Anyway, so yeah, the conversation we had was really kind of a reflection on the podcast and where we're headed. And I think part of it stemmed from me a little bit and me beginning to feel like this podcast has become just like kind of another chore that we have to do and another piece of work that always needed to get done every week. And it kind of became a strain on me, and I think it leaked over into the actual quality of the podcast. So I came to these guys and I was like, we gotta kind of switch it up a little bit, I think. And Jason we were just talking before we started recording today again, and just talking about how we may feel like tips, tactics,
and techniques.
It's just so I don't want to say boring. But
maybe not as engaging as
boring.
It could be.
I mean, like, no, it's true. Like, one thing that I think, I do a lot of studying. I read up on a lot of things, and whether it be golf or marketing and stuff. And like, there's like one theme that I hear from the most successful people, and they always say like, do what you do best, right? Like, don't try to do something or be something that you're not. Right. And one thing that Kevin and Paul doesn't necessarily meet with the clients as much as Kevin and I do. But one thing that Kevin and I do is like people like us when we talk with them, when we sit down with them. Right. And like they like the conversations that we have. They like that we bicker at each other. They like that, we tell stories. They like that kind of stuff. And I think that we get away from that when we talk too much about executing, right? Like, I think the majority of people who listen to this podcast are like in a car somewhere, right? Like, how are they gonna or how are you gonna take what we're talking about? Unless, of course, you get to your office and listen to the podcast again. But like on the last podcast that we tried to record that we didn't record, I was telling these guys like that when I try to listen to a podcast in my car and I press media, like the media button on my car, like all of a sudden it goes to some recording I did for a golf podcast with someone. And I say to myself, every time I'm in the car, when I get to the freaking studio, I'm going to figure out why it's doing this because it's driving me insane. And you know what? I walk in the studio, I say hello to Paul and Kevin and Dan and whoever the hell else is here, and I never do it. It's literally been like a month. So I guess like maybe you guys are having the same problem, right? Like you listen to us in the car. And
yeah, I mean, basically we always talk about how it's really hard to engage with our audience. And I think
on a podcast.
And I think that's part of the reason why is because of maybe the content we're putting out. I mean, the content has value to it, but it's so, I think it almost seems manufactured, I think, when we come out here and do it. It's like every time we come in here, we come up with a topic and we talk about that specific topic. And it's become a little bit of a drain to do it because I don't feel like we're making that connection with people. And we always talking about like stories are so important. And then we come on here, we don't tell stories.
Yeah, we don't even practice what we're preaching.
Yeah. We talk about a topic and we try to stick to that topic and it gets mundane. And I think we need to kind of practice what we preach a little bit and really just come on here and just have conversations. Because every time I always tell Paul, like, we have these conversations, we sit down, the three of us, and we just talk, we bullshit with each other, and it seems like it's so much more interesting to me.
Well, the other thing I think is that this podcast can't become another job, right? It can't become boring to us.
Right.
Like, if it's boring for us, it's like...
It's got to be boring for listeners.
And it's like, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like,
Which is what Kevin was struggling with, and all of us. You know, it's hard to come up with topics and questions, and we were just forcing things.
yeah, and I think this, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, this is also stemming from some other things that we're reflecting on as well, right? Like how to deal with clients and how to better sort of, I guess, make people understand a little bit more like what they're going to get from a relationship with us, right? Like to better what's the word? Like
I mean, we definitely, that's a problem, and like we have to address like the boundaries that we place on our with our clients and how we step beyond that. And I mean, I think that's a whole nother issue that we.
But this is how we got here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like we recently were working with a client that we got through the podcast. We were working with him for a year. The guy was a startup. Great guy. Like we really rarely talked to him. We did a lot of work for him, but you know, he had one product, and it really was like, I mean, it wasn't at the point after a year where this guy was like, hey, you know, this is all I want to do is like, I want to sell this product. It really was like we were almost building the business with him, and it turned out that he got a job. Like he was like a high, like he was like a big
Executive
a
kinda
big
guy,
executive, and I guess, and we don't really know the whole story, but I guess he retired and he wanted to start his own retail business. He was starting from nothing, and after a year, he kind of got another job, and he decided that it was just like he was going to just shut it down. And we had a great relationship with the guy, and then like we got one of our other clients who came through the podcast. Also sort of like decided that he wasn't going to work with us. And we just kind of like collectively as a group were like how do we do this better? Like
Right.
how do we make sure that we're even working with the right clients? Right? Like, cuz I think that's a big thing. It's like it's so easy to just want to work with everybody. You know, but it's so much more difficult to work with people that aren't necessarily in the right place to hire a company like us.
Yeah, and I think it's part of our. I'm sorry, Paul.
No.
I think it's part of our personalities that, like, when we meet people, we just have this feeling like like you said, we want to help everybody, and we feel like we can help everybody. I think to some extent we can, but some people just aren't in the right place to invest in someone like our services. Not like we're overly expensive or anything like that, but when you're an entrepreneur and starting an e-commerce store, it's not like you could just start it, hire a marketer, and then become a millionaire.
Well, and I don't even know like if that's necessarily the objective all the time. I think though that not everybody is in the right frame of mind, right? Like when you're starting an online store or any business, or you're, you know, coming from one, like maybe you're coming from Amazon, you have a lot of success on Amazon, like you're trying to like then replicate that success on your own store. Man, it's a long road, and it's not like you can't look at it like as a daily thing, like a daily grind. Well, no, you can look at it as a daily grind, but you can't look at it like, you know, what am I trying to say? But like, it's like you can't look at it like a daily thing. Like you have to look at the body of work, right? It's like when you're first starting, it's like there are so many variables that you can't like. You don't know until you start doing it. You know, it's like,
and I think we begin to have an internal struggle with that, is because we have clients that come to us and they want to pay us money to help them, and then we get to the point where we're like, well, you know, this guy's, you know, he's got a natural progression of events that are happening that are moving him in the right direction, but he's not necessarily making the money back that he's spending on us or on his advertising. So we have this, like, I guess it's our conscious or something that's like, man, are we doing the right thing by this person?
yeah, and I think it goes back to, we think we can help everybody. We want to help everybody, but not everybody's helpable. At least, you know, in the stage that they're at right then and there, right? Like, we, as an agency, it's impossible for us to build everybody's business. It's just not it's not realistic. You have people have to build their own businesses, and we have to help them accelerate that, or we have to help them obtain clients or leads or whatever. But we can't be responsible for growing someone's business. It's just there's just so much more to it than just hiring some agency, and it's something that we're learning. It's something that we're learning that it's just not good for us to work with everybody.
Yeah, and we're thinking about things that may better suit someone like that instead of, I don't want to say instead of hiring us, because obviously we'd love to work with people, but maybe just, really valuable content or a course or something that a person in that position could take and just learn more and kind of execute themselves. And then once they get to the point where they're like, this is turned into something, I need to hire someone to handle what I'm doing. That's where we can come in as a service-based, I guess.
You lost me there. So you're saying that they should take a course?
No, I'm just saying, if we could offer up, we're trying to, evaluate where we're going with this whole thing.
Okay.
Instead of, a startup calls us, for instance, and they say, I'm just starting out, I have 0 emails, and I don't know what to do. Well, instead of saying, well, you could pay us this a monthly, and we'll try. It's pretty much essentially what I'm saying. Instead, here's some information that you could take with you and learn as an entrepreneur and get yourself going, because paying us a monthly retainer for this kind of thing maybe isn't right for you
at that point. Right.
Yeah. Or right for us.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's another thing. I can really count, not a lot, but there's probably 3 clients that came into the doors here that literally we shouldn't have worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we should have said no.
Just think about if we could have offered them something that they could take and run with and use and learn, which I think part of what this podcast was originally is a place where someone can just listen to us, we can give as much value, as much information as possible, and they can take it and run with it. Think about that if someone called like that and we said, go here and we have really a library of information for you guys to review. Take it, learn it for yourself, because I think that's another thing that these entrepreneurs want to do is they want to do it by themselves a lot of times, especially once we get to the point where things are going, they want to take over then at that point and take over. So if they could learn it, get it to a point where the business is evolved, I guess, a little bit, has become something, then they can say, I need help executing this stuff. I need you guys.
Then we can come in. I think we should focus on trying to structure our own business, our own services, this podcast, in ways that we can have tiers and help people in different stages. And I think that's what you're hitting on, Kev.
Exactly.
Offer, information for people who are just starting out, who normally we would take and shouldn't. And then as their progression goes, maybe we offer them a course next, or maybe they can work with us for just a small amount of money for a small amount of services. And then once they grow bigger, then we can full-blown be their marketing agency,
almost like a consultant at the beginning.
Yeah.
You have a question, you can call us, we can point you in the right direction, tell you what you should do, but you're not in a position to pay a marketing firm a retainer. It just doesn't make sense for you.
No, and that's the course thing, guys, just so you know, this is the first time I've heard about this. I mean, he just kind of threw that in there as an example, I think. But I think it really goes back to what this podcast is going to be and what we want it to be. Because to be honest with you guys, it's really been a struggle lately to come up with an actionable topic every week. Yeah. And it's something that it's very difficult for us because it's very hard to come up with something new every single week. And we found, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I found that it got a little bit mundane, a little bit
repetitive. There was times we talked about the same topics a little
whenever
bit.
we didn't have a topic.
5 keys.
Yeah.
How many times we talk about the 5 keys to email?
I mean, which
being a dead horse.
They're definitely valuable, and we definitely use them every day, and it definitely works, But whenever Kevin couldn't come up with a topic, Kevin and I would be like, "Hey, Paul, you got a Q&A for us?"
And we're 3 guys. It's not like we have a staff of research and development crew that's coming up with latest topics or whatever. So
yeah.
So, and plus we're working on day-to-day stuff.
And I think what we said in the last podcast that didn't end up getting recorded was that we go through struggles and trials and tribulations just like you guys are going to go through when you're building your store. And it's real easy to get up on these mics and pretend that everything is perfect all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's not. we go through the same things that you may or may not go through building your store. And we're learning just like everybody else.
I think it's important to talk about that, like we're doing now. Instead of just talking about success and failures with our clients, I think we should be more transparent about success and failures with ourselves.
Well, I think like I've been here for 2 years, and I think this place has evolved like multiple times in 2 years, right? Like this place has changed,
and hopefully it'll continue to change in a great
but,
way.
Like, this place has changed seriously, like many times, and there's, I have to say that I think like it's really been going up, like at least, that's the trend. And we did have a tough month last month, and that's kind of where all this came from. Like two clients, the one that we're talking about that was with us for a year, which we really didn't have any control over him leaving. I mean, he just got a job and wasn't going to do the business anymore. Mm-hmm. The second guy was a little bit of a curveball because it was kind of like we felt a little bit unjustified.
Yeah.
And
it just wasn't a right fit at that time.
Wasn't the right fit, but like
it's a good example of like this. He wasn't ready for this commitment.
He wasn't. Well, let's get into that. Like for example, the first client, just without dropping names, if you know who I'm talking about. Right. Like, what do you think would have been a better approach with him, or what do you think a better structure or a better plan would have been for someone like that?
Fine. I don't. I think he had multiple businesses that he was trying to grow, and it was like I don't know that he was 150% into the project we were working on.
Well, I think at the beginning he had the mindset. Like he was ready. Like we didn't talk to him that often. He kind of let us do our thing, and he knew it was going to be an investment up front, and he stuck with it for a really long time. It's just it became like his involvement kind of left, and that's where it goes back to like we can't build your entire business for you.
Right.
Like we just can't. We're not building businesses. That's not what we do. We need the involvement of the other side, and we do have a few clients right now that we're going through that with.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know that like he's a real good example because honestly, we left off with him. I mean, the guy lived in Texas. We really built a nice relationship. When I say that, because we donated, and I don't want to like get into like but he really appreciated us, and he really, I believe, liked us, and I believe that he stuck it. I mean, because at the beginning it was a little rough because he had, any relationship at first is a learning experience. But I don't know if he's like a great example of like he just things changed on his end, right? And it was like he stuck with it for a year, and he decided that like his job was probably going to take precedence over building these businesses, because building a business is not like just paying someone a monthly retainer and then forgetting about it and like thinking they're going to just do everything for you. That's not realistic.
But it could be if the compensation is correct. That's what I'm trying to say. Like you guys have a structure and a package for what you offer potential clients that they pay us to do a certain service. But going back on what you both were saying before, like you started doing too much. But if you were getting compensated enough where we could have a big chunk of someone's business and be making the big decisions, then it's potentially worth it, because then you guys can put your effort into it.
His scenario was like
his was different.
Was different because we did do everything for him, so it was a little bit different. The problem is there was a lot of things. I mean, he had one product. It's hard to sell just one product. I mean, there's a lot of things with him, but he was a good guy, and we really got along with him.
I think there's different, like you're saying, like we can do more things. We can grow your revenue through different outlets, through email, Facebook, whatever. But when you talk about like building a business, like that's not what we're doing. Right. We're not building it. We're growing a business, I guess, but we're not gonna do.
But it's
everything.
not their fault,
right?
It's not their fault, right? Like it's our fault. Like we should say no.
Yeah.
Right. But we don't. We're getting better at it. I think the last guy was a little bit of a curveball because we basically tell everybody. We start off every conversation with a new client like, look, we don't require you to stay with us for any amount of time, but we ask that you give us 3 months because we need to figure things out. And this particular guy was like, yeah, I understand it's a long haul. And it was like 1 month, and he's like, I'm going to stop. It's like, dude, like.
Well, I think we need, it's like not even a 3 month thing to just figure stuff out. It's like both parties need to decide in 3 months whether or not this is even a viable business or if it's worth moving forward with. Like it might not be right for us in 3 months either. Even if the business is growing, like maybe it's not a right fit for us in that way.
And really, it was going in that direction, like with this guy, right? Like we were seeing that, like it may or may not have been the right fit. I mean, we probably should have known after the first couple conversations, but we didn't. And he's not that he's not that it was like,
well, yeah. I mean, we have a hard time saying no.
We have a hard time saying no.
And then after we don't say no, we have a hard time creating boundaries. Yeah. Like we just have that personality, and it's a problem that's occurring with a lot of our other clients where we can't. Okay, we said we'd do this. Now we can't do that too. Like it's not part of it. And then what happens? We have a client that we do so much for, and so much beyond our scope of what we were supposed to do, and they don't recognize it. They don't see it happening. So it becomes, we create this environment which it becomes a difficult situation, client vendor relationship, I guess, because they're expecting this, but we're like, we got to step back. But
well, because
why?
we feel like the more we do, the more value that they see in us, but that's not how it works.
Well, they might, but we don't show them how much we're doing. Like
No.
we talk about it in our little vacuum. We're in a bubble because you guys know and see what we all do, and we don't. I mean, we talked about this in the last podcast that didn't get recorded, like sending reports and just like being more involved with communicating with the client about what exactly we're doing. Like if you're going the extra mile, you guys don't really tell them or show them that. Like the behind the scenes, the R&D that went into a new strategy, you just do it, and then when they don't see results, they get all unhappy, and then we feel that way. Like they don't appreciate it.
I think that yes, but I also think that there are guys who know everything that we do, and it's still it doesn't matter because they didn't hire us to do all this extra stuff that we did, and that's basically what they say is like, I hired you to do this, and we're like, like
it's almost like if you told them that you did, it'd be like, well, you shouldn't have done it then. If you're not
right,
supposed to.
And that's
like,
basically what they say.
How about a thank you? Like, what the hell?
Right, and that's basically what they say. But I think, because we always talk about how, like, we come across these other marketing companies that get no results for people, and like they get away with it.
Yeah.
Like, how do they do that? Well, they do that because they don't do everything. They basically say to the client, like, look, here's what we have in the contract. This is what we say we were going to do. Mm-hmm. You're paying us for this. You're paying us for X, not Y.
Yeah.
See, for us, we say, well, if we do Y, they will respect us more. And it's not that way. It's the complete opposite. The meeting that we were supposed to have yesterday with one of our clients, we do everything for, and they know we do everything for. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I think we just got to restructure ourselves, set up boundaries with ourselves and clients, learn to say no, but like appeal to everybody, because like you guys both said, we can help everybody or most people, but it's in different ways than what we're offering. I feel like we've been approaching marketing as like, well, here's what we can do. But like you can't give that big chunk to everybody. It might be way too much for some people and way too little for some people. Like to get specific, what about like offering people like creative strategy? Like think about it, like there are some clients who expect us to do more and for you guys to come up with new stuff, but then some don't, and then like don't even care when you did think of something. So that should be separated. That should be like, look, here's what you're paying us. You come up with the ideas. You tell us every month, every 2 weeks, every holiday what you want to do if you want the control. And that's a different tiered price as opposed to we'll come up with them as we go. If you want to pay us for our creativity, for our R&D, that's a different service.
I think the clients think when they're handing you a check that it's like they want to forget about it. And I think that that's part of the issue. I mean, we spoke about this on the other podcast, and Kev, I don't know if you even agree, but like, we were talking about how stressed out you were and how we don't seem as stressed as you. And like, how much do you think it comes from doing work that we're not getting paid for?
Yeah, it's a very big part of it. And this client that Jason's talking about is a big creator of this stress I'm having, because I'm busting my ass for these guys, and then they want to have a phone call, and essentially every time they want to have a phone call, we actually talk to the owners of the company. We're like, oh, we're going to get fired, even though the numbers are up 40%, the revenue's up 40%, and all this, because they're just...
Yeah, but I think, see, your mentality is like, well, how do we do more so that they respect, or they think, or that they feel like they're getting more than what they're paying for, right? And what that does is it makes you stressed, and them like, look, I'm not paying you to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's sort of like, that's your personality, first of all. See, I'm like the opposite. Like, if you're not paying us, like, I'm not working for you.
I'm a big relationship guy, right? I like to, everybody that walks in that we start doing work for, I feel like I want to be their friend almost, and I want to be the guy that they talk to. Again, I think it stems from like just past clients that I've created that relationship with, and that it kind of like I could go in and talk to him about family stuff and like this stuff and all that, and I feel like I want to create that relationship where they'll respect me. They'll thank me for things I do. They'll appreciate things I do. And we do have some clients that are like that. That created that. But it's like they don't really give a shit. A lot of them. They're like, they don't care about a relationship we may have had for 15 years.
No, that means nothing to them because
it's business.
It's a business. It's not like we talked about this before. Like, how many friends are you still friends with, like from when you grew up?
Very little.
Very little.
Yeah.
Right? You're friends if you see him. Hey, Mike. Hey, John. Hey, Chris. Whatever.
I have my 20-year reunion coming up in August, and I'm just like ignoring all the Facebook posts.
Yeah, I don't go to any of those things. But like we've spoken about that. And then when you're young, you have all these friends, right? And then you go to college and you make new friends. And then at some point you have kids and a family, and your friends from college and your friends from when you were a kid, you don't really have much involvement with them, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with business, man. Like, they're worried about their own business. We're worried about. It's like, it's not like, that's not how they look at it.
We went through this with these guys when we would sit down with them when you first started, and I was like, we got to sit down with these guys. We got to do their marketing. I was like, they'll trust me. Like, I've been working with them for 15 years, and it took us like 3 or 4 times meeting with them before they would actually say go ahead.
They really didn't trust you.
They hired
right
like some other company, some big friggin' company.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
This last company, $20 million company. They were moving from one e-commerce platform to another. I spent hours for free helping them. Hours for free helping them. We went in to go see them. They loved us. The owner of the company was like, we have to work with them. We have to. Well, I actually have a family member who is a higher up there. So we thought it's a shoo-in.
Yeah.
No problem. Well, we said we would work strictly on commission only. You can't lose, only commission. We offered something. They came back with a counter offer. We then said, okay, whatever. And then they're like, we don't want to give our business away. Like, we feel like we're giving too much of our business away, and we're not working with them. It doesn't matter that.
What happened to the relationship we had previously where you were so grateful, you wanted to work with us, we created that, and then it was just like,
what about all the hours of coaching we gave you?
Yeah.
What about all the hours of consulting we gave you? See, it doesn't matter.
And they also didn't take any of our advice.
They didn't take any of our advice. Right.
Well, like you said before, when you almost come across, like, even though we think you're doing something good and like building a relationship by offering free time or helping people out, they might not value us.
No, they don't.
Where if you charge that, even though it might have been a little like, nerve-wracking for them, like, oh, we got to pay for, some hours of consulting. Maybe later on they would have been like, hey, you know what? Like, they cost this much just for their time. They must be the real deal. Well, it might have went down differently.
Let's look at it a different way, right? So I always make fun of Kevin that he comes in the office at whatever, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and he just buries himself in the computer until 7 o'clock or 6:30, whatever, or 6 o'clock, whenever he leaves, right? I always say that to you. How much would that change, do you think, if you only worked on the things that people were giving you money for?
Yeah, it'd be a dramatic difference.
Right. So they would then value all that extra time because you'll send them a bill for $1,000 or whatever for like 10 hours, whatever, or 5 hours or whatever it is. And they're like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, well, I did all this extra work. No. Don't do that extra work. Or, okay, thank you, no problem. We appreciate it.
Well, I'm the idiot that's at the desk staring at my computer when I'm kind of have some downtime trying to figure out how much more I can do for somebody.
Right.
Like, what the
Right. And that's, that's
a quality to a fault.
It is.
I guess.
And
it's a good way to put it.
It is, because you're adding stress for nothing. You're like,
what's wrong? Hello? What?
It's all good.
Is it going?
Yeah.
you're adding stress. Like, if you're being paid for that stress, it's one thing. But, like, if you're not, like, we do retainers so that we can have free time, not so that we can work.
Yeah, I'm just so used to the other side of things, and I'm growing out of it. You got to give me some credit.
Well,
I'm
2
getting a
days
little
ago,
bit better.
you were stressed out.
Well, that's good that we're having this conversation because I think it's good. Every business, your business, everybody's business has to evolve, has to pivot, change directions, and I think that's kind of we're doing them a lot faster now, and I think it's a good thing because we're growing, we're improving. Because, like you said, this business has changed so many different times. We're not going to get it right every time we switch directions.
No, and like for example, this podcast. Like, honestly, I would much rather do what we're doing right now and nobody listen,
Absolutely.
than do what we've been doing and getting the hundreds of downloads a day or whatever.
Well, see, I think if we're doing what we're doing, the people who want to be a part of what we're talking about and who engage with us more and who relate to us more will come. I mean, it's like what you said. What you said, you were listening to somebody who said, "Do what you are passionate about, or do what you like.
Do what you're good at.
Do what you're good at." Well, we're good at being casual and bullshitting and hanging out and talking about real life stuff and telling stories, not like forcing techniques and tactics that
And
we
you're
like
right. I
assume
mean, this last
businesses
guy
wanna
who
know.
left us prematurely, that's not how he was. He was like, to set up a Facebook ad, you have to plan it out over 6 months. And then, like, if that Facebook ad doesn't work, there's a process you have to go through to change the direction. That's not us. Like, something's not working. It's costing you money. We're not doing it anymore. We're just going to make a decision that we're moving in a different direction. That's how we work, right? Like, some people don't work that way. Like, we have a new client who we always say would be great to have him in here working with us. He does these pivot tables on Excel, and he's really into that kind of stuff, and we're just not.
Yeah,
just
as
not
much
how
as we
work.
say, we got to tell people what we're doing every time. We got to create reports. But that would be changing our personality, I think, a little bit, and how we work with our clients. It's just not, it's like we do whatever it takes to get results.
Yeah, but do we want to keep doing that? That's the question. The question is, because this industry is so cyclical, it's up and down, man. Like, 1 month we could be making thousands and thousands of dollars for our clients, and they're selling a product that only sells during the winter, and then come June, the product isn't selling as well. It's on us now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can't force people to buy your product in June when you're selling a snowblower.
Yeah. Or a brick oven.
Right. I'm just, right.
To be more specific.
Right, and that's, I think that's part of, like, learning, and it's part of, like, growing, and it's part of, like, and you know what, this conversation may or may not seem like there's any relation to your business, but there is, because you have to know when something is not working and pivot. You have to know when something is not producing the sort of results that you want it to produce, even though it may be producing some results. It's not the ones that you want.
Yeah, and that's what was happening. Like, we were getting results. We were seeing downloads. Our downloads were increasing,
and
but we
weren't
getting the engagement that we wanted.
And we're getting clients. And to be honest with you, to be completely honest, like, clients that we may or may not really be the right fit.
Yeah.
Right.
So we just got to find our way. We got to find the right clients and find our own path with this podcast and, like, the tone we want to take and the topics and just the mood we want to create. And I think that the right clients will come. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah,
and we
that's
built
what they
it, and
say.
it wasn't the right thing. So you got to tear it down and try it again.
And you got to keep at it. I mean, you can't give up. You got to keep...
That's right. That's a lesson that
Yeah,
we need to tell ourselves.
And it almost got to that point where I was like, this podcast, like, it just seems like it's not going in the right direction.
It's work.
Right. It's work, exactly. It's like presenting every week I have to present a topic, and it just wasn't feeling right to me. So, and when we sit down, the three of us, we have really good conversations, just bullshitting with each other. And I think that's where this has to go. And even before we were about to record, I started telling a story that happened, and they were like, wait, that's what we should talk about.
Yeah.
Like, this kind of thing. So I didn't tell the story, so we're going to talk
We'll
about
do
that
that
on the next one.
Yeah, save that for the next one. Yeah, I think this whole podcast should be more of a broad business sort of feel. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree. I mean, I think e-commerce is obviously a huge part, and it's what we do, e-commerce marketing. But I just think, like, more like life and business and just storytelling should be more of what it's about. And the smaller topics are e-commerce based.
Yeah,
And I think we could always swing it back and
It could go
it
wherever.
all has
yeah.
it has a theme. But I think
you know, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's really it for today. I don't know if you guys have anything else, but I mean, we were really doing some reflecting, and I think that we had to get this off our chest a little bit because we really weren't having fun. Like, you know, we were talking about like not doing this and doing like a golf podcast instead. Like,
I think we should do that too because
should.
because it was a topic. It was more of a free flowing topic, and I didn't feel like I'm not an expert on golf. But I just felt like it was more, I could be who I am. Like I could just bullshit and not have to be perfect every time I got on the microphone.
Yeah, but then it would require you to actually play golf so that you'd have some experiences.
That's a good reason.
You know, like these golf clubs you just bought.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
They're all still wrapped up.
But
anyway, we got this new setup. So we got our recording software is actually working. So I'm pretty sure, hopefully when I stop this, the whole thing doesn't get deleted. But I'm pretty sure that this entire podcast has recorded.
Yeah.
So it only took us an hour before we started recording to figure out
Oh my
this
God,
setup.
might have been longer than that.
Any of you guys who enjoyed those tip tactics and techniques?
Plus, it's so hard.
It's too hard to even say.
Do you think we have to change the intro so it doesn't say tip tactics and techniques anymore? Maybe we should refresh in the
Yeah, I think we
intro.
should. I think we should revisit everything.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think we should just revisit everything. See what.
but we apologize if you were if you were one of those people who actually look forward to that stuff.
We'll still do them.
Yeah,
I think when you guys have great ones, when you discover something new, or when there is one that we learned applying with our own clients and customers, like then let's talk about that. Make it an episode
See,
that's strictly
the
for
problem
that.
is, like,
I hate when you start with a statement with the problem is.
Yeah, because
You do
what's
it
the
too
what's
often.
the
Okay,
problem?
so
Don't
something
be
that
so
we've
negative.
learned,
The
though-
solution is
no, there's something that we've learned is that not everything works the same for every business.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It just doesn't. As much as I'd love to like pretend that every strategy that we use works the same for everybody, it just doesn't. I mean, there are different levels of excitement for different products. There are different, like, you know, like when you're talking about a product, like a passion-based product, that's different than selling like a remote control for a TV.
Right.
yeah.
You know, and our email strategies may really work for one client, and then we use the same ones, and like it's like dude, I wasn't sitting around waiting for, you know, you to send me an offer on a remote. Like that's you know, it just wasn't. So they don't work the same for everybody, but when they work, they really work, and I think that's part of the challenge that we have.
Yeah, and I think that'll handle people's expectations too. If we come on here and we talk about actual stories that we went through, or things we went through in business, they can relate in that way. Not like a tip that we're giving out. You should do this. These 5 keys will work for you. Well, we don't know. Maybe not all those 5 keys will work exactly the way we're explaining in our podcast.
Right, but if we tell you a story around like an idea, then you can kind of morph that into, you know, your own business.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is much easier.
Yeah.
It's more fun, which was the whole point. You know?
We can be ourselves, and I think the big part of it, we always wanted to get our personalities out there and really explain
Well, dude,
who we are.
You and I bantered a lot. I mean, that's our personalities. It wasn't like completely. It's just the topics weren't that as exciting as they could have been.
Yeah. So
And-
I like this direction. I think it's going to be fun. And we're going to have Paulie in more often.
Yeah. They're allowing me to join their
Paulie in and
bro
I'm out.
party.
You're out?
No.
Oh, thank
Okay,
God.
good.
I'm starving though right now, to be honest.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
pretty hungry. Anyway, thank you guys. We hope you enjoy
Wait, do we
this.
want to offer the same thing we offered last time
Yeah, go ahead.
at the end?
I think it's a good idea.
good
if
idea.
you've
Forgot about
listened
that.
to this, if you listened to our BS this long, you deserve something.
This one wasn't as long though. This one was only like a half hour, I think.
We're at
35 minutes,
We're at
40
almost
minutes?
40 minutes because I think we started 10 minutes.
So
in
it's still
anyway.
pretty
Okay,
long.
so
but
40 minutes. So that's
Yeah, continue,
that's
Jason.
twice as long as we normally do it.
Yeah.
So
If they made it here.
and it's really had no real direction. We're just kind of BSing. So if you've stayed this long, what we're going to do is offer you, so if you're hearing this, a 30-minute free conversation about anything. I mean, anything. I mean, you know,
You offering up therapy?
no,
services?
but about your store.
a
It doesn't matter.
consultation. A
Yeah, it
business
doesn't matter,
consultation.
and there's no. We're not going to try to sell you anything. We're not even going to ask you if you want to work with us. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to give you 30 minutes where you can ask us any question, but it's going to be a hard 30 minutes. right? It can't be like a 30 minutes that turns into like an hour because we've had that too.
About 31.
And we let it go. We gotta develop those boundaries for you.
We got to develop those
Yeah,
boundaries.
it's good. It's a good way for you guys to
But we
practice
will give
that.
you 30 minutes, and if you want to buy another couple hours, you can. But I mean, we're gonna
Whatever.
free 30 minutes.
We just-
And we'll send you a free e-commerce uncensored
Don't forget the
t-shirt
if you're in the U.S.
If you're in the U.S. because shipping's expensive
So
otherwise.
like we did that in the beginning. We're like, hey, if you want a free T-shirt, let us know. And like everybody from overseas
Yeah,
was like
Brazil.
emailing us.
Yeah,
and we're
Write
like,
us a review and we'll give you a free T-shirt. And then the first one I got was in India, or I don't even know what. I like go online to ship, and it was like $45 to ship
Right,
a
it was like-
T-shirt. I was like, dude, I thank you so much, but I can't do it. But I did. That's the thing. Like, I ended up having like a decent back and forth with that guy, like a conversation, which I really enjoyed, as opposed to people calling. They kind of want to work with us. It kind of makes it a more of a
There's more pressure on it.
yeah, pressurized conversation. But like, I had people email us. I go back and forth. We talk. Instagram. I had conversation with people, and it just feels right to me. Those kind of conversations and those kinds of relationships that we have. So that's what we're trying to build.
so
here.
free 30-minute call on anything that you want. Doesn't matter what it is. We're not going to ask you to work with us after that. We're not going to ask you to buy anything or anything like that. Because you deserve something if you've waited this long, and that's what we're going to do.
So you can email us, Kevin at ecommerceuncensored.com, Paul at ecommerceuncensored.com if we need to set that up, and Jason at ecommerceuncensored.com.
Wait a little while if you're going to send it to Paul because it might bounce back at you.
Don't email me.
Yeah, we got to.
Don't email me.
Yeah. Anyway, all
right,
right, guys.
cool.
I think that's it. I mean, I'm excited about the direction that we're going in. Hopefully, you guys will be a little bit more find it a little bit more interesting as well. But yeah, I think that's it. Anything else, Kyle?
I'll have my wife try to put together the podcast notes of this.
Twice?
brand
What about
new-
the one that we didn't record?
She's gotta
'cause
do both.
No, she's got
gotta do that one too.
without even knowing what we said. She's got to
She's
write.
gotta
We don't
guess.
even know what we said.
Well, yeah,
So-
let's keep trying new things. We'll bring a fresh approach to this.
Yeah, and you know
moving
what?
forward.
You should be trying new things for your business too. Like this is really us testing different ways. You know, we've been doing this for 2 years. We got to a certain level with what we were doing.
But then we had to pivot.
Well, yeah, because
key.
I think that's only going to take us so far. So.
Very cool. So check it out. Check us out at ecommerceuncensored.com, and we'll talk to you guys really, really soon.
Later.
Bye.
Bye bye.